Victoria, thanks so much for coming and being part of the P Word Talk podcast. This is a bit of a special bonus episode. Where have you come from? You've flown all the way from a long way away.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm from Melbourne, Australia.
Okay. And you are someone who's been campaigning, talking about OnlyFans for probably, I think a couple of years now, right? That's been part of your your advocacy and your work. We're going to just start really basic, if it's okay, Victoria. And I'm going to start with, what is OnlyFans? I mean, people probably may be familiar with the name. They probably know maybe that it's a social media platform, perhaps, or they might have heard it around the whole area of pornography. But just break it down. What is OnlyFans? How does it work? And just give people a bit of an understanding who maybe haven't really heard about OnlyFans before.
Yeah, definitely. So OnlyFans is the new iteration of pornography that we have for our generation. But what's really unique about OnlyFans is that kind of for the first time in history, I believe, we've never as a culture kind of accepted and glamorized and idolized being a sex worker. But because of this OnlyFans phenomenon, we now actually not only have widely accepted it, but this is actually what we encourage. So now women that, maybe in like traditional kind of sex work, they were low socioeconomic status. Maybe it was they believed that it was their only option. Like there was more vulnerable women, to generalize. Well, now actually OnlyFans is bringing in women that have legitimate career options. Perhaps they're at university, they come from stable homes. It's not the same stereotype as it once was. And as a culture, we're actually saying that if you want to be the pinnacle of success, if you want to be elite, if you want to dream big dreams, OnlyFans is the way to facilitate that. And so it's a really unique phenomenon in that way. And what's also really unique about OnlyFans is that why it's so much more successful, I believe, than kind of traditional pornography, maybe Pornhub or something like that, is because you're not just jumping online and consuming videos of nameless and faceless people, but it's all done through instant messaging. So it's actually a relationship building platform. So you're jumping on OnlyFans, you're able to build a relationship with this girl, have a conversation with her, and also be able to ask her to do anything that you want. You just have to pay for it.
So let's just rewind that a little bit.
Yep.
So OnlyFans is it's a platform that you go to, but you have to pay to sort of see any of the videos or any of the content. There's a kind of live sort of cam version of that, but also people can see pre-recorded videos. Is that right? Or photos?
So it's a subscription-based platform.
Yeah.
And what is on OnlyFans is you'll have like a feed, but everything's done through the messaging. So through the messaging, you have these things called pay-per-views, which is locked content that you have to pay to view it, or you submit custom requests. And so that's where you actually ask for something specific, and then the girl tells you kind of how much that will be. Or you have free accounts where you can see free type of content, but all of the money is made through the messages on this subscription platform, and there's no live feed. So everything is all pre-taken and pre-recorded, photos and videos.
What was your role with OnlyFans? Because we're talking to you because actually you were kind of involved with them as a platform, as a recruiter. So what did a recruiter do, and what does that mean?
Yeah, so my role was I used to help run one of the biggest OnlyFans agencies in Australia. So agencies are third-party underground businesses that are the connector between OnlyFans, the girl, and the subscriber. And so my role was that there's kind of three main elements to an agency. But to put it simply, there's account management. The main role of an OnlyFans agency is to impersonate being the girl on her behalf to make as much money as possible on the account. Then from there, there's the marketing. And you market these girls through social media because OnlyFans doesn't have an internal promotional system. It doesn't have a For You page. So that's why you have to use social media to market these girls. Then element number 3 is recruitment. So then you're also having to bring in women to the agency. So you need to use social media to be able to find women and recruit them.
How did you first get involved in this then? What's your own personal story of becoming a someone who was working for an agency like this?
Yeah, so my background is actually in business, so specifically startups. And I was actually working for one of my really good friends, and we were building hospitality restaurants. And we were working like crazy hours. We were doing like 100-hour work weeks for like months and months on end. And what ended up happening is I was like, I'm exhausted. I need to go on a holiday. And so I went to Europe for a month. And while I was in Europe, I had another friend decide that they wanted to start this thing called an agency. And the reason why they wanted to start the agency is they already had friends that were in OnlyFans in Australia, and they were some of our biggest creators at the time. And those girls were complaining about their agency. And so my friend has an exceptional educational background. She's an ex-criminal defense lawyer. And so her mind was, well, I have this really great background. I know all the legalities. We already have friends that are in OnlyFans. They know what's needed. Why don't we ask Vic and see if she'll be interested, because she's the one that's actually built businesses and understands what to do. And so when I got back from Europe, my friends were like, hey, do you want to be a part of this agency that we're building? And my lens was like, yes, number one, I'm exhausted. I don't want to do hospitality anymore. But then also I didn't really know what OnlyFans was. So I looked at my friends and superficially I was like, well, they seem happy. They seem rich. They seem famous. I think you can just sell your feet on there. Like, I don't really know, right?
Yeah.
But I think that this seems like a good business opportunity. And so that's how I got involved in the agency.
And even that in itself is really interesting, isn't it? Because, again, if you were to ask the average person on the street, you know, what does somebody who works for a porn site look like? They've probably got, obviously, the people you see on the screen. They've got a kind of stereotype of what those people look like. And then the people who are running the business side of that, they've probably got their own ideas about who they are as well. And again, what you're describing is that OnlyFans seems to be drawing people who very well educated, business minded, all these things, who are kind of saying this is just a really good business opportunity.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how you saw it at the beginning. You're just saying this is just a business like any other business. Hopefully it won't be so exhausting. I'll make good money. People seem to be happy. When did that sort of start to change for you then? When did you start to see something different to what you first thought when you were beginning?
Yeah, I think just to touch on that, I think it's so important just for people to understand that it's crazy that it's really not people like these baddies like in the shadows.
Yeah.
Even just to help emphasize that for people of how desensitized they are to this. So we had some investors at the agency that was some of the most successful entrepreneurs like in Australia.
Okay.
So again, just to help really shatter that illusion for people and emphasize that people really believe that this is like a legitimate career option and a safe way to be able to make money. So what happened for me is I'm working for this agency, and where the turning point was is my role was to make girls go as viral as possible, as quickly as possible. So I was doing all the front forward-facing work. But because the main role of an agency is to impersonate being the girls, right? What we had seen over time is that people were starting to pick up on holes in our stories. So subscribers were talking to the girl on Instagram, talking to the girl on OnlyFans, and as a management team, we weren't communicating behind the scenes. So they're starting to be like, wait a minute, I'm having a conversation with you here, following it up there, but you don't know what I'm talking about. Is this really you? So that's when we realized, we need to change the business structure. And so that's when we went from me doing all the marketing and the OnlyFans account manager doing all the OnlyFans account managing to splitting the girls in half and doing the full life cycle. And so that's when I actually jumped on the back end of OnlyFans and I started to see exactly what we were doing. And that's when I went, oh my goodness, like we're selling porn. Like this is what we're doing. And for me personally, I'd never been a consumer of pornography. So I was seeing porn for the first time and it's my friends. And so that's when things really started to change for me because I understood the reality of exactly what it was we were doing.
Victoria, tell us then, because you were saying before you started to sort of go in the back end, if you like, and seeing what kind of content was being created, I guess, when you were kind of more involved in the marketing and maybe involved in those messaging bits, what was that not really explicit, that kind of stuff that was messaging, and was that not sort of like, you know, an explicit content that was being written, or does it actually only really get explicit once someone gets behind a paywall and starts paying?
Yeah, well, I think that it's such a good question because it shows how desensitized we are on social media. Because I was not jumping on the back end yet and reading those messages. I was seeing all of the content that, you know, millions of people see every single day on social media.
Yeah.
So everyone is inundated with, you know, lingerie photos, bikini photos, inappropriate photos, videos that are highly suggestive. And so you're so desensitized to it that you don't actually even correlate that, oh, if we're doing this, what's happening behind the scenes?
Yes.
And so that's what I was seeing. Basically what everyone else sees and what everyone is so numb to, that's the content that we were producing and putting out there. And a lot of the content was very suggestive as well. It was innuendos to pique men's curiosity, very manipulative. And so that's why for me, I didn't even comprehend the reality of what we were doing until I actually saw it.
And so, so you were involved in that kind of wider social media platform stuff and those kind of, those thirst trap type bikini shots, whatever. And then you suddenly started to get involved because you were working with specific individuals. You got more involved with them, what they were producing on OnlyFans. And that was a very different level of content. What point then, or was there a specific moment when you decided, hang on a minute, I need to leave this. I need to move on. This isn't what I thought it was.
Yeah. So the catalyst for it was when I was doing account managing. I'm crying every day. Like I can't open up my laptop. I can't do my job. And I'm just devastated because I'm like, we're getting girls out of legitimate career opportunities and we're telling them that these are the dreams that they should be dreaming. And I'm just like, but that girl's so smart. That girl's so kind. That girl's hilarious. And this is what we're telling her to do. And so it sent me on a journey of just asking questions and trying to figure out exactly like what is this? What are we doing? Is this wrong? Is this right? All the different things. And what ended up happening through a wild series of events is I actually ended up at a church service. And there's so many details in that. But it was a guest speaker who was speaking at church on this specific Sunday. And they were speaking about OnlyFans. And they were speaking about this over-sexualized, over-pornified culture. They go to schools all around Australia and see what's happening to the young people. And so when this person finished speaking, I literally had ran down to them and was like, my name's Victoria. I work for an OnlyFans agency and I hate myself. And this beautiful woman just sat with me and had lunch with me and just answered all my questions about, isn't this ethical porn? Isn't this empowering, liberating, a safe, better option and all the different things? And she just spoke the truth to me. And so that was on the Sunday. So by the Friday, I actually quit the agency and I walked away from everything because I understood that what we were doing was wrong. And I wasn't crazy that actually this is bad. And that was that catalytic moment for me.
How did people react when you told them that? Like your friends, your family, obviously you were in this agency with people you were friends with and you knew. What was their response when you said, I'm leaving and this is why?
Yeah. Well, what was so unique about when I left is, so I had that Sunday and then on the Tuesday I texted because again, it was one of my really close friends of like, hey, I'm just struggling in this job. I still didn't know how to articulate it fully, right? And I just said, and they were my business partner in another business. So it was really messy, just to be honest. And I was like, I just don't think I can do this job anymore. And that's when by the Friday I was like, yep, I'm out. And things were good for a little bit, but then very quickly, all the relationships just, no longer existed anymore. They actually ended up trying to sue me. All these crazy things happened there. And then with my family, to be honest with you, everyone thought that I'd lost my mind. Everyone thought that I was crazy. But it's because, to be honest, it's so intertwined with a radical faith encounter.
Sure.
So for me, it wasn't just necessarily that there was a career change. There was an entire lifestyle change that happened for me. So because it happened within 5 days, it was really hard for a lot of people to understand and comprehend. So yeah, it meant as a byproduct, I walked away from, as I said, every single element of my life to be able to start a new path and a new life. Yeah.
And I think that's really important to maybe dig into a little because it would be easy for people listening. There'll be people listening and watching this who may or may not have their own faith, And so it could be easy for someone watching this now going, Oh, right. Okay. So she found Jesus and that's why she stepped away. But it's not as simple as that, right? I mean, that's obviously a really important part. But it would be easy for people to dismiss some of the other things that you are aware of around the industry and some of the exploitation, some of the concerns that you were already having before you then kind of had that faith encounter. With, oh, well, of course, she's left OnlyFans, she's become a Christian. And so I'd love us to talk about almost what were the other things, what were the things that you've seen, not just when you were, more directly involved with your OnlyFans, but also just as you've then gone on to be a bit of an advocate and a spokesperson around this issue and about the harms of pornography. For example, I think lots of people, if people have heard of OnlyFans, they, I think, imagine these kind of independent creators, which is how OnlyFans would kind of say this, that was the label people are given, isn't it? You're a creator. So that in itself is like, you're not a sex worker or you're not, a porn performer, you're a creator. And that you're working for yourself and there's therefore some safety and some stuff there. How accurate is that? Because you've already mentioned something that probably most people didn't even know about, that there are agencies out there that are recruiting and marketing and maybe even, pretending to be these individuals. So, just help us understand maybe what you think most people think OnlyFans is.
Yeah.
And how accurate that might be.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there was two, like you said at the start of that question as well, like maybe people might dismiss it because of faith. And then what's the reality? So just to like address both of those questions, the first part is I'm hoping that regardless of your lens of faith, people can understand that I was working in the job and found faith. It's not necessarily like I had left and had all these things. And I hope that that's encouraging for people to understand that no matter where you are and where you're at, that there's always an opportunity for hope, to be honest with you. You can think that you're too far gone. You can, be someone that is literally a digital pimp exploiting people and think that you're the worst of the worst. But there's always hope for you. And so I just hope that's encouraging for people to not then automatically just dismiss every single other thing because of that. Oh, of course she found Jesus. Actually, no, it was in one of the most hardest and darkest places of my life where I was able to have freedom and hope, and that's available for everyone. And then for what do people think OnlyFans is, and then what's the reality? Well, the reality is it is a porn platform and these women are sex workers. It's not OnlyFans content and you're an OnlyFans model and a creator. There's statistics out there that suggest that 70 to 90% of all of the content on OnlyFans is not safe for work content. Not safe for work content means porn. The reality is as well that people think that you're going to jump onto OnlyFans, that you're going to make all this money and live this really easy, successful life. Well, the statistics say that the average wage of an OnlyFans creator is $180 a month. And so realistically, you're going to jump on and have to do full-on pornography and you're going to make no money. There's 4.5 million content creators on OnlyFans and only 300 make more than $1 million a year. And then the other kind of, illusion that needs to be shattered around OnlyFans is people believe that it is more ethical, that it is a safer way, that these girls do have autonomy. Well, only one of my friends, actually, I'll say this, was one of the biggest OnlyFans creators in America. And word for word, she says that if she never had an agency, she never would have done the things that she did, that they destroyed all of her boundaries. I have so many friends that have come out of OnlyFans and all say the same things. I would have never have done the things that I did, but because it's just the same as the sex industry. OnlyFans isn't here and then the mainstream porn industry is here. They're the exact same thing. OnlyFans just has a different outfit on. And so the consequences are the exact same. And so the process of escalation, the exploitation, the destroying of boundaries, the mental health consequences, it's all the same for these girls. And so you might think that, oh, maybe it's this creator that's in her house and she has all this autonomy. Well, agencies will softly groom and softly manipulate girls to do more. And so just maybe for some people as well, just to even get more clear, soft influence is so much more powerful than hard influence. So hard influence would be, Ian, can you go turn the lights off? But soft influence is, Ian, don't you think it's really bright in here? And then you go, oh, I'll turn the lights off. So I'm softly manipulating you to do something that I want instead of just asking you. And that's the whole coercion industry of OnlyFans. And so it's the same as the sex industry. They'll bit by bit, oh, well, why don't you try do that? You should try. Well, if you want to be able to get to the next level, like whatever it is, you should collaborate with this girl. And because the wage is so small, that process of escalation comes around so much quicker. There's agencies that I know of that would literally get all of the girls together, feed them drugs and alcohol, and have cameras all in the house and film them doing all of this stuff, put it on their OnlyFans. The amount of men that actually control their girlfriends' OnlyFans accounts, that sexually assault them, put it on OnlyFans. There's no protector here. So this is what we have to understand is the reality is it's not these individualized girls that have this full autonomy that are just in their rooms in a safe space doing OnlyFans. Again, it's the exact same consequences as the mainstream porn industry. It's just different. It's just OnlyFans, but it doesn't actually mean that it's different. So I'm really hoping that that's able to help a lot of people just understand some of the main arguments and understand, oh, wow, this actually isn't what I think it is. And it's just the exact same as the mainstream porn industry.
Help us then understand perhaps, the role that agencies, even how many agencies there are.
Well, what's really interesting is because of the Andrew Tate phenomenon. I actually met a gentleman recently in the Netherlands and he was a part of that. He actually used to run with him and really got enticed by this whole, well, go be a man's man and start running girls' OnlyFans accounts. And so if you just look on YouTube, there is a whole entire universe that exists of young men that are going, oh, I want to be, the entrepreneur, kind of like there's a crypto guy. Now there's like an OnlyFans guy.
Yeah.
And so there's actually thousands and thousands and thousands of young men that are jumping online telling, do you want to be rich? Well, this is how you do it. This is how you recruit girls. This is how you manipulate them. This is how you get them to do more. And so it's an entire industry within itself. So the honest answer is there could potentially be millions of agencies, but you could either have a sophisticated structure, kind of like the one I was a part of, but what's even more dangerous is you have a lot of these rogue individuals that are like, I want to be the pinnacle of manhood and the pinnacle of success. And the way to do that is to go recruit girls and to be able to exploit them and make a bunch of money on OnlyFans. So even within the OnlyFans agency industry, there's all these little subcategories of different people that are trying to do this, which I think is kind of just as scary because then there's no limitations to how exploitive this actually does get and how manipulative it does get because there's no regulations around it. There's no business model. There's no structure. It's just a bunch of people wanting to take advantage of women on OnlyFans.
Yeah. And as people would understand non-digital pimps to be, often the boyfriend actually who is doing that or whatever. Yeah. So, with your agency, that you were with, how were girls, women identified and persuaded to join? What was the kind of recruitment strategy there?
Yeah, so what we had realized is that we had a girl at the agency that we would lie and say that she was fresh 18. She was like 20, 21, but she made the most money at the account. And so when you did just a very superficial look into the porn industry, you realize that the most searched categories is teen, fresh teen, and barely legal. I believe in 2013 on Pornhub, the teen category had 33.5 million hits. And so we realized, the younger they look, the more money they make. And so what you would do is you would scour the internet, you would be on TikTok and Instagram and all the things, and you would look for girls that, number one, look young, but then most importantly, are they already posting provocative content? Because if they are, that tells you one of two things. Either they already have an OnlyFans account or they're more likely to do something like OnlyFans. And so then from there, we had a legitimate agency account that was throwing, these lavish parties. We had the mansions, the cars, the yachts. We had all the things, right? And so imagine you get a message from this agency account that has thousands of followers, shows this fantastic lifestyle. And we go, hey, we think you're really cute. We love your vibe. Have you ever considered doing OnlyFans? Or have you ever considered having an agency? And that's how you would recruit girls. Or if you really wanted a girl, what you would do is you'd get one of the agency owners, who's this very big OnlyFans girl, to personally message the girl. And so again, imagine the psychology behind that of, oh my gosh, blah, blah messaged me. I must be seen. I must be special. I must be important. And so that's how you recruit girls.
Yeah. I guess there is still this myth amongst young adults, particularly as you said, you know, I can make a fortune by just having photos of my feet on the internet. There's almost like a joke around that.
Yeah.
How did you manage to then go from, would you like to be involved with this, and then maybe thinking, oh, okay, I won't have to do too much. You can just do photos of your feet on OnlyFans and I can make a load of money really quickly. How honest were recruiters being about the financial realities or the expectations in that beginning stage?
Yeah, I remember a conversation that one of the owners was having with a girl about, she had a modeling contract, and a part of the modeling contract was that she wasn't able to do OnlyFans. And verbatim, the owner goes, babe, are you serious? Let's drop this. Let's get you out of that. You're going to make so much more money coming to OnlyFans. That's ridiculous. So you're enticing these girls so much, again, with this fantastic elite lifestyle. And again, that's just not the reality. The way that you would do this is, again, through this like soft manipulation. And so within the onboarding process for the agency, you have this thing called a questionnaire. And so the questionnaire is every single detail that you can possibly try and extract from the girl, because we're impersonating her, right? So within the questionnaire, there's these things called levels. And this is unique to the agency I was at. This isn't for all agencies, but what it was what level of content are you comfortable doing? And so level 1 is Instagram content, bikini and lingerie. Level 2 is implied nudity. Level 3 is full nudity. Level 4, I'm sorry for the language, but was everything but anal. And level 5 was everything. And so you're already coming into this ecosystem, and you're now inaugurated into, okay, I thought I was just going to sell my feet, number 1. But then this is what the levels are. So does that mean that now if I'm at the bottom, do I have to get here to make money? Is this what I need to do? And so what we'd also realized over time is that the girls who just did Instagram content on OnlyFans didn't make any money. And so this was my idea. I said, well, why don't we just get rid of level 1 and make level 2 level 1? So again, imagine a lot of people say this is consensual, the girls have more autonomy, all these things. Well, now you're coming into this ecosystem and the baseline bottom level is implied nudity. Well, wait a minute, I thought I could just sell my feet on here. And now you're telling me that I have to do this. And then if the girls didn't make any money, or they didn't make the money that they were expecting, we would look at their levels and would be like, well, what does she expect? She's only a level 1, she's only a level 2. And so then what do? Babe, you should collaborate with this girl, but maybe that girl's a level 5. Oh, you should do this, you should try that. Let's do this type of content. And then before you know it, all their boundaries are shattered, because again, well, I thought I was going to do this. This isn't working. Does that mean I have to do this now to be able to, achieve this goal? And then that's how, before you know it, they're doing all these things that they never thought they would. And so again, is it really consent? Is it really autonomy? Is it really empowerment? When now we can understand the structure behind the scenes that is softly manipulating them to do more.
Let's just chat a little bit about subscribers, so that we've talked a bit about those content creators, those women and girls and guys as well, I guess, on OnlyFans, who are creating those videos, those photos, whatever it might be. But then, of course, there's the people who are paying. What kind of requests were you seeing creators receive from subscribers? And because as we've said already, there's the whole foot thing, but what was really happening there? What are people asking for and expecting? Because again, you might say I'm level 1, but all the subscribers are asking for things that are level 5, right?
Yep. I think that's a really fantastic point. Because again, a lot of the arguments for OnlyFans is it's safer, it's more empowering, it's more ethical. The way that subscribers speak to these women is disgusting, just to put it bluntly. It is horrific. It is so degrading. It is so vile. Some of the main things that subscribers ask for is it would disturb a lot of people. And that's what we have to understand, is that you're now giving a free pass to people to feel that they can treat a woman any way that they want. And it's this bizarre power dynamic, right? Yeah. Because I can ask you for anything because I'm paying for it. And so you have to do what I want. And so, but then with the girls, it's like, okay, and I've had my friends say this, oh, you're talking to me like trash, but I get the power back because I get to take the money off you. So it's this weird dynamic, right? But I need your money to do like, so can you imagine how bizarrely complex that is? And so some of the custom requests that you were getting is, this is what I like to explain when I speak about these custom requests is, we kind of spoke about the process of escalation, right? With the women of doing this to then going to this. Well, there's a process of escalation as well with people that consume porn, right? I'm sure you're well aware of that you might start with this type of porn. Before you know it, you're doing crazy stuff. You're buying women and you're just, you never know how you get there. Well, imagine on OnlyFans, because of custom requests, you're actually helping to facilitate that process of escalation, right? Because now I can ask the girl to fulfill any fantasy that I want. And so one of the ones that I talk about that I believe is a little bit more disturbing is, well, two actually. The first one is one of the subscribers asked one of the girls to blow up balloons to a specific size, wear specific shoes, and stomp on the balloons. And people go, oh, I bet he was trolling her and all. No. Think about this. Pull on that thread. He paid good money to sexually get off to that. What is going on in someone's mind where that specific request of those specific shoes, the balloons being that specific size, is the thing that is like, exactly that is what I want. And we're facilitating this weird, twisted, bizarre sexual fantasy. I'm like, that's not a healthy human, and we're encouraging that. And then one of the other ones, which I think is more disturbing as well, is one of the subscribers asked if the girl could have a guy in the video and his hands were like on a ledge and it looked like he was going to fall. He doesn't have to fall in real life, but can it look like he's in danger? And can you like step on his fingers? Bizarre. Like we usually think of custom, like all these, and it's like, okay, if this man is asking for someone to be put in danger virtually, when does that not work for him anymore? And then he's going to physically go put someone in danger. And people might hear this just say that doesn't happen. I personally know someone, I speak with him, so he's very public about this, about how he would watch rape porn and then he ended up wanting to act that out. And he ends up getting arrested for attempted rape of a woman because he needed that kick, he needed that high, and that's how he thought was the only way he would get it.
Yeah.
So I'm like hoping people can understand this is what OnlyFans is facilitating. So how is this a benefit for our society if we're encouraging these people through these custom requests to have whatever fantasy they want? It's not going to stop on the internet. Of course, it's going to come into, real life, and inadvertently more people are going to be hurt because of this.
Yeah. And we're seeing more and more studies that are showing this, link between violent, aggressive, abusive content online and then that being kind of being acted out in real life. But how have you noticed, or how have you become aware of some of the kind of psychological struggles then that amongst creators, if this escalation is happening and people are being asked to do more and more things, they might have somebody who they're in a kind of digital relationship with, which again is the kind of selling point of OnlyFans, is you have a relationship with this person and that builds over time. And then what's being asked is escalating. How is that affecting creators? Are they disconnected? Are they kind of going, oh yeah, I am just like you said, I'm getting the power back because I'm getting paid, or is it more complex than that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So what I saw firsthand at the agency is the mental health, the substance abuse, all the different things. It's all there. Again, so many people think that traditional exploitation is here and OnlyFans is here and they're different, that they're the exact same thing. So it's the exact same consequences. I had friends telling me that I hate this gives me anxiety, I don't want to do this anymore, but I'm not good at anything else. This is the only thing I can do.
So they're trapped.
They're trapped. I have friends right now that are in OnlyFans and that are terrified to leave because they tell me, Vic, I can't do anything else. What are my options? And I think that that's the biggest lie that OnlyFans says for these women is you don't have any other options. This is all you can do. So is that freedom? Is that really empowerment? It's the total opposite. And so I think that that's one of the things. The mental health is horrific on these girls and they don't actually enjoy doing this. And I think that's something that's really interesting as well. One of my friends who works in activism in the States, she told me this story that she was in a meeting with a gentleman who's in the FBI and that he's been interviewing girls coming out of OnlyFans. And it's not to compare, so I hope people don't hear what I'm not saying. It's just interesting. But he goes, the women that I've met that are coming out of digital exploitation are actually more fragile and vulnerable and paranoid than women in physical exploitation. And he goes, it's because what I've seen is women that are physically exploited, their safe haven is to be alone, right? Because it's happening to them in real life. So there's some sort of peace, in quotation marks, that they can have in solitude. Well, women who are being digitally exploited, they'll be in a room with no one around and they're being exploited. And so they don't know. So when they walk down the street, they have no idea who's seen their content, who's talking to them. And I saw that paranoia, the amount of stalkers that these girls get, all these different things, because you don't know who your, I wouldn't say abuser, but you don't know who the person who's exploiting you is because it's nameless and faceless. So how much more is that going to make you insecure and paranoid and isolate than it being physically? And I think that that's a really unique distinction that we need to make about digital exploitation. And I've seen that personally with my friends as well.
Yeah. I think it's really helpful for people to understand even that language you're using of digital exploitation, digital pimps. I think this is really helpful for people to get their heads around that, as you say, maybe categories that we would have in real life, what a pimp does, how a pimp kind of controls somebody, or what a sex worker in real life does, and how trapped they may or may not feel in that job. Just going, okay, yeah, this is the same. It is the same. It's online, but it's the same consequences, the same things. The hook and the harm is the same. And so I think that's going to be really helpful for people. And yet maybe what is different, and we've touched on this already, is, OnlyFans CEO, Keely Blair, she often talks about OnlyFans as wants it to be the safest social media platform in the world. Talks about it being empowering, which is another kind of word that we've used already. That's probably different to kind of how people perceive, sex work in real life, if you like, and brothels or whatever. There's probably not many people in a brothel saying, I want this to be the safest place in the city. But there is this is the language that's being used by OnlyFans, and yet seems so different to what you're talking about. How is that possible? How are they able to talk in this way as a company, and yet this is some of the realities that you're talking about? How do you think that's happened?
I think it's so interesting, isn't it? I think in our era that we live in now, it's because language is so manipulated, right? That's why it's so important. OnlyFans content creator, no, you're a sex worker. OnlyFans content, no, it's porn. We manipulate language so much that we have these false illusions that we believe. And if you look at things logically with OnlyFans, well, how do you know that all of the content that's on there is consensual? You have no idea. How do you know that the girl wanted to put that up there? How do you know that if she's sleeping with someone on camera, that's someone that she wanted to do that with? How do you know she's not intoxicated or under the influence? You have no idea. So how can you make claims about these things when it's impossible to know the reality of it? One of the guidelines on OnlyFans is this thing of no alcohol in the videos and stuff like that. Wait a minute, you have no idea how drunk that girl is. I know so many of my friends that were absolutely inebriated. As I said, agencies would get girls high and drunk and take all these videos and put it on their OnlyFans. So you can't claim that this is a safer way to do things. But what I think is the unique position of OnlyFans, the company, is that if they acknowledge agencies, because agencies are these third parties, the jig is up, right? So they can maintain this facade almost of it's ethical, empowering, and all these things. Because these agencies are in the shadows. They're the underground ones. So if you expose agencies, then you expose the exploitation, all of these things. But because they're not actually connected to OnlyFans, well, then how do you hold OnlyFans accountable for other businesses that are hacking into the back end and are the ones that are actually doing all of the dirty work, so to say? It's a really interesting position for them to be in as a company of, well, what's their role and responsibility in agencies? But if they acknowledge them, then, the whole industry of OnlyFans is gone.
Let's just chat about moderation for a minute, because I think that's probably a big way in which OnlyFans would sort of claim that they are safe because they will say everything is getting moderated. They've got various kind of age verification as well in terms of for content creators. So they've kind of got digital age verification to prove, because you were talking about the younger a younger looking person making more. But there's this kind of, facial recognition that will kind of guess your age. So they're not got under 18s becoming content creators in theory. And then also the moderation of, in theory, content is removed straight away if it's got any abuse or anything that would be considered non-consensual or disturbing in that sense. Is that reality to your knowledge, or are there underage content creators, or is there non-moderated content?
Yeah, I think like my whole question that I would pose is, how do you prove that? Especially like we would niche girls out. So there would be the more extreme niches, the more, full on ones. So how do you not say, oh, well, that's consensual. That's just a part of the niche. That's just what it looks more extreme. It's all these things. But how do you actually know? Again, how do you know if someone's drunk on camera? How do you know if someone's high? How do you know if someone's in a safe environment? How do you know that they're in their home with the person that they want to be there with, that they fully consented to this that's being taken, that's being filmed? And how do you protect that and prove that? You can't. Yeah. So I think that it's really hard to claim that and say that, well, this is safe, this is this, unless you're putting in policies where you're checking, the houses and doing what I mean? Like, how do you actually know what's being put on there? How do you know that girl's not under 18? You have no idea. And I don't think that you can claim to know those things because it's next to impossible.
We talked a bit earlier about the strong need that OnlyFans as a platform has for the other social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, because that's where the marketing happens. That's when a potential subscriber actually discovers a person and then goes and then pays to have this relationship with them on OnlyFans. What is that in reality then? What is the overlap between, say, Instagram or TikTok, where we know actually lots of young people are being exposed to porn? We know that. We know that's actually one of the main ways. They're not going on to porn sites. They're actually being exposed to porn through X and through TikTok and other things. How much of that is OnlyFans creators trying to bring people on to the OnlyFans platform?
Yeah. So if you think about this of putting business brains on, right? If you can't have an internal promotional system on OnlyFans, well, then how are you going to get your OnlyFans out there? And how are you going to get subscribers? And how are you going to make money? You have to be promoting it on other platforms. So that means if there's 4.5 million content creators, then how many more platforms are there on Instagram, X, Snapchat, dating apps, all these different things that are promoting people's OnlyFans? What we had at the agency is we required the girls to have 3 to 5 TikTok accounts. Okay. And on each of those TikTok accounts, they had to be posting up to 5 unique videos per account per day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
Exactly. And so some of these videos, they were so suggestive. They're so innuendo. They might not be, full on, but they pique men's curiosity to be able to bring them into funneling systems to lead them to the porn platform.
Yeah.
And so we're getting girls on, sometimes fresh, brand new TikTok accounts. It's 2.2 million views on one video in 7 days. So the magnitude of hypersexualized, very specific curated content to target men is inundated across the internet. And so this is what a lot of people don't understand is the magnitude of this. This is one agency in Australia, and there's probably millions of agencies in the world. And so how much more so is there millions of pieces of content promoting this stuff? So that's why it's so important to understand this is what's shaped the culture. That's why it's so normalized now. And then even from the lens of talking about people being exposed and influenced by this, imagine you're jumping on TikTok, you're jumping on Instagram, you're now inundated with this. So that's why, again, it's so normalized. And then it's also meaning that there's so much more exposure to people, right? Because of the magnitude of how much we're actually able to promote this stuff.
So I guess the part of the link that you're saying is you have those already OnlyFans content creators using Instagram, using TikTok as the way of attracting people to their accounts on OnlyFans. You've also got people who aren't OnlyFans creators but are kind of mimicking the content that those kinds of creators are making because they're thinking, well, this is the stuff that gets the views, right? So like you say, so then you've kind of got this, and that's where then you were saying as a recruiter, you were looking at Instagram and TikTok going, who are the girls who are doing the kind of thing? And probably those girls who you hadn't recruited were aware of the kind of content that was being used, if that makes sense. It's kind of creating this normalization, but also this expectation of, oh, if I want to succeed on TikTok, I've got to do this stuff, even if I'm not an OnlyFans creator. So it goes beyond even what content OnlyFans creators are putting on socials. It's also hitting other people too.
Well, this is what I think, it's such a good point, and this is what I think is so important, is this is such a bigger phenomenon and a bigger conversation than we're just trying to get girls to stop doing porn. Because I have so many people that come to me, especially young girls, being like, I watch OnlyFans creator content and then I think I have to act in that way. That's how I have to be. And the same thing, if you're seeing all over social media that these women are being rewarded through likes and followers and views for acting this way, of course you're going to be like, well, I have to post like that to be successful too. That's what a desirable woman is. And so that's why it might not be perhaps that all these women are going to jump on OnlyFans, but that is the reality. But what's actually a byproduct of this culture in their lives? I've had little girls that are like 12, 13, 14 in my arms, like crying, being like, I've watched like OnlyFans creator content on TikTok and I thought that I had to act that way. So I went and did things sexually with a boy that I didn't want to do. And how do I deal with the shame now? And so we have to realize that this is why it's so much bigger than what we think it is. And we can't really sit here and I don't believe say that, well, this is empowering and liberating when I see firsthand the destruction that it's having on our young girls to be like, this is what I thought I was supposed to do. This is what the world tells me. But I feel horrible. This doesn't make me feel good. And then for young men, well, that's what their lens of a desirable woman is, this over-sexualized girl that I can take. I can get anything I want from her. And so we're actually seeing that the highest rate of abusers is now in schools because it's teenagers against teenagers. And so the predators are now in the schools. We're even seeing that there is so much incest abuse that is happening because little children are getting so exposed to this that they're actually acting it out on their siblings. And so this is the reality of when we normalize and glamorize this over-sexualized culture, that we can sit here and say, well, this is positive. But if you pull on the thread and you actually see what it's impacting on a generational level in everyday lives, well, is this really liberating? Is this really empowering? And is it actually making a better culture? Because the statistics and the reality shows the total opposite.
One of the trends that I guess has kind of been on social media is, and I didn't know about this until somebody told me because I'm not a 14-year-old girl, but is the Bop House girls.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about them and how that is a very clear example of what we've been talking about.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, the majority of girls that I speak to that are impacted by this, it's all through the Bop House girls. So the Bop House is a house in Florida that has all these OnlyFans creators that live there, and they do this childlike content, this very suggestive innuendo type of content that I've been explaining to promote their OnlyFans. And they're massive. They have millions and millions and millions of followers. And I travel the world now speaking about this. I was in a conference in the Netherlands. And literally I had 20-year-old girls tell me they watch Bop House content. I've traveled all around America and no matter what sphere that I'm in, people know about the Bop House. Young girls know about the Bop House. And it's so influential because they're now the dreams that young girls are wanting, right? I want to be a Bop House girl. And guys, Bop House means baddies on point. So literally you have these young girls being like, I want to be a baddie. I want to be this hypersexual girl that has this amazing lifestyle. And they see all this content and think that it's so amazing. But all it's done is literally just to promote their OnlyFans. That's the intent of it, you know? And it's grooming a generation to aspire to being a sex worker.
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned Andrew Tate a little bit earlier, and I guess this might be a kind of the female equivalent of that, in that all the concerns that parents had and teachers had and different people had about How is this kind of glamorized lifestyle influencing young people who are kind of looking at someone like Andrew Tate and going, okay, the things he's saying are really toxic and problematic, but he's also demonstrating this lifestyle that young boys are kind of aspiring to. Is this the kind of equivalent? You know, is this something that girls are in the same way kind of aspiring to Bop House?
Totally. And if you look at the progression just over like kind of the last little bit in our history, it's so interesting. You kind of had Hugh Hefner with the Playboy girls, but it was still a little bit, you know, taboo almost. Then the next kind of really big iteration was Dan Bilzerian, and Dan Bilzerian really then paved the way for Andrew Tate. And now you even have girls that are the ones recruiting now, and girls are the ones glamorizing this. And I believe that Bop House is that next iteration, but it's even bigger now because now it's so mainstream, it's so normalized from like the Playboy era where it's like, girls, you really shouldn't do that, to now, oh my gosh, girls, this is the only thing that you should want to do. And we've so normalized that in our culture that exactly, I think that it is really that next iteration in the propaganda of the sex industry to normalize and encourage this type of work.
And so a 13-year-old who's on Instagram is maybe going to see somebody doing a kind of like going out kind of video by someone who lives in the Bop House. So the content itself might not be sexually explicit, but that's maybe their first kind of touch point with the Bop House girls or whatever, is this kind of content, the kind of makeup stuff or kind of going out or party. And it feels, so if a parent's looking over the shoulder of their 13-year-old and going through what sort of stuff they're watching, they're going, oh, it's like a bit of a makeup tutorial, isn't it? It's not that bad. But these are the same people who are then creating more explicit content, both on social media and then certainly more explicit on OnlyFans. Is that how it's working?
Yeah. So there was a girl in Australia, and I think this is a really unique case. Her name was Anna Paul, and she was our biggest TikTok creator. And that exact thing, she was our biggest OnlyFans girl, obviously. And in high school, she was a phenomenon. Every single teenage girl knew about Anna Paul and loved her because her content was travel, it was funny, it was food, it was really interesting. And she actually ended up getting mainstream brand deals. She was a part of toothpaste companies, all these things. And so she's doing meet and greets in shopping malls. And you have parents of 12, 13, even younger girls that are bringing their little girls to meet a porn star, and they're not even aware of it. And that's why it's like the type of content that's being done now is so sophisticated in that sense, because it's not overtly promoting it and being like, look at all of this. Again, I'm just a normal girl. I'm just this cutesy, fun girl. Come shopping with me, come to the gym with me. But my job is I'm a content creator. Like, I'm a mattress actress. I'm all these things. And we use these fun little words to totally desensitize the reality of what it is. So then again, you're going, oh my gosh, Ari Kitsia, she's a mattress actress. Look at her life. It's so cute. It's so fun. I want to do that too. I love the lifestyle that she lives. So it's all about the promotion of the lifestyle. But if you want that lifestyle, you have to do OnlyFans to get that lifestyle. And I just think it's so deceitful, you know?
What would you say to someone who uses porn but has maybe thought that OnlyFans is an ethical way of using porn? So they're thinking about becoming a subscriber. Maybe they're not yet. But they've kind of listened to the narrative that says this is empowering, this is safe for the content creators. Therefore, this is ethical. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I'm hoping if you've gotten this far as well that we've been able to shatter a lot of those illusions. I think one of the biggest allures of OnlyFans is this enticement of building relationship. And so what I would say to you is, number one, you believe that you're going on OnlyFans and that you're going to be able to talk to this girl. You're not. It's someone who's paid to be able to pretend to be the girl, probably some dude in the Philippines, we call them chatters, and their role is a commission-based role. So you're being manipulated for the only reason to make money off of you. That's it. These girls don't care about you. They don't know you exist. It's all to get money off of you, number one. And then if you're like, but this is maybe the better way to do it, if that in itself doesn't shatter the illusion for you, number two is, well, this is the better way to do it. Well, is it? Maybe that's what your conscience is telling you. But actually, now that you understand the reality, how do you know that that girl it's in a safe environment. She's not being forced. She doesn't have an agency, and that she's actually being able to do this 100% consensually. And but I ask her, yeah, okay, so if you're asking her, we had subscribers asking, is this really you, blah, blah, blah. What do you think the chatter does? The chatter immediately messages us. We message the girl, hey, can you send the chatter, can you send the subscriber a voice message? He holes in the story. Like, you're never going to know if what you're doing is actually ethical, if it's really the girl, and if she's really safe. So is it worth it? Like, I just don't think so, because now you understand the ecosystem that's behind the scenes.
Yeah. You left, and you're now doing this. You're doing interviews and talking about OnlyFans and being a bit of a whistleblower, I suppose, would be maybe the term that people would use. What started that for you? Because there's a difference between saying, this is a world I don't want to be part of, and then you actually saying, actually, I'm going to start speaking out about this.
I think for me, what happened is it was so radical what happened in my life, having this just crazy number one faith encounter. But then as well, for me, it was this deception piece. So in my heart, I was like, oh my gosh, like, guys, you have no idea what this is. You have no idea the reality of this. And I was so heartbroken over the dreams that we were telling girls to dream, and that this was what their value was, because I'm like, these girls are incredible and they are so much more worthy than just to get naked online. And if this is what we're saying is the pinnacle of success, this is devastating. So for me, it was just I couldn't not. To be honest with you, I could not talk about this. And so it was just this very organic thing, to be honest with you, I just started, I was like, well, where do I talk about this? Like, I don't know what to do. I'm starting this new life. So I just jumped on TikTok and I just literally started talking about this on TikTok. I was volunteering. I was going into schools and, one thing led to another. A video went viral and it just turned into what it turned into now. And I just believe that from a faith lens, that it was just, the redemptive narrative of what Jesus does in someone's life, that he turns all things to good. And so that's what he's just done with this, is he's turning this something very dark into something very beautiful, to give people hope and to understand the reality, to hopefully, help them to make a better decision in their life.
Yeah. Have you sensed that you are changing minds? That people who maybe thought that OnlyFans was harmless or it was the better option or whatever, do you think that is happening? Are you kind of seeing that shift?
I could sit here and tell you stories for hours. It is so beautiful what is happening. Number one, across the world, there is such a shift in the sex industry. People are leaving and they're leaving on their own accord. And it is so beautiful to see. And it's supernatural. It really, really is what's happening. It's so spectacular. But then even, yes, in the everyday conversations and all of this, the main thing is, and why it's so important to educate people, is we're only getting one side of the narrative, right? It's empowering, it's all this money, blah, blah, blah. But so many people are like, whoa, there's a whole entire other side to this story. Now I feel like I can make a well-informed decision. And I think that's the most important thing here is, hey, let's give you all the information and all the facts, and then you can make the right decision instead of it being one-sided here. So I think that's the most powerful thing in this. And the biggest thing that I see in doing this work is people are like, I feel more educated and I feel like I actually understand the reality of this now, which is really, really beautiful to see. Yeah.
Yeah. We as an organisation, Naked Truth, one of the things that we're sort of campaigning around is for porn and the harms of porn to be kind of acknowledged as a public health issue. That's one thing, at kind of government level. Do you think it is? Do you think pornography and porn use is a public health issue? It's something that we should be kind of talking about at a society level?
Absolutely, because just for people that are like, oh, that's a bit extreme, I'd really love you just to like logic brain this for a second. Again, pull on the thread of, well, what is the byproduct of having pornography so integrated into our culture? Well, the average age of pornography exposure in the UK, Australia, and the US is 8 years old. So is it healthy for our little children that before their first kiss, they're seeing pornography? What do you think that's doing? Okay, go a little bit older now. We now know that the main predators of children is children against children in schools. Well, that's because of pornography. So is that healthy? Then you come a little bit older, majority of people, their first sexual experience and everything like that is violence against women. It's really horrible things because 88% of all porn shows violence towards women. So is that healthy for our young people? Then relationships, marriages, 89.7%, I believe, of all subscribers on OnlyFans are married men. So is that healthy for our relationships? And then again, the process of escalation. How many people are consuming pornography and then physically acting things out? I've met women that have gone into bankruptcy because of their husband's porn and sex addiction. That's more common. The amount of young girls that I'm meeting that are being molested by their brothers because of porn. This is really normal stuff that is happening on everyday life in every single generation. So I would propose to people, do you think that that's a positive in our society? Do you think that having pornography, the byproduct is healthier relationships, happier people, and more healthy and well-rounded, wholesome people? Well, I don't believe it is. So wouldn't it mean that we need to be making this a more mainstream issue because we can see the actual destruction in our society that it's having?
So you're an Australian, and in Australia, it is now illegal if you're under 16 to access any social media. So Instagram, TikTok, all of those. And that's certainly something other countries lawmakers are looking at as well here in the UK and others. In your opinion, is banning social media as an Australian, is that a good thing? What are you seeing in Australia? Is it changing anything?
I think that unfortunately I speak with so many teenagers, and I've been at dinner tables with teenagers with their parents, and they're like, I still have my TikTok. Like you just can't have an account. And so I think that unfortunately, I don't know, maybe now, but maybe long term it will, seeing that. But I think that what I believe is more important is I think that it'll be great to mitigate risk, definitely. But once they turn 16, you still need to be educating your children on this entire universe that is the digital world. And so is it helpful to probably put a little bit of a barrier between that? Yeah, but I think what we need to focus on is, okay, when you are on social media, when I do give you the Instagram account or the TikTok account or whatever, how do you navigate it? I think the most dangerous thing we can do is think that restricting all social media use for children is the better option. That's worse because then there's an allure. There's, oh my gosh, this is so, it's dangerous. So I want it. All kids are that way. They want what they can't have. So how do we actually, instead of doing that, give them the tools to know how to navigate this? So parents, educate your children young. I'm talking 3 years old on what are good pictures, bad pictures. It's a book. Read it with your kids. Go through. You're going to see stuff on social media. How do we navigate it? So then when we do give you this access, you know how to be well prepared for it, and not immediately then all at 16, everyone starts getting exposed to porn and freaking out.
Yeah.
So I think that it's good from that sense, that I think it'll help mitigate some things, but we need to also focus on how do we train and equip our young people to be healthy and navigate this so that when they are inevitably on it, they know what to do and they're not freaking out.
One of our previous guests on this podcast was Helen Taylor from Exeter's Cry, and she was talking about how she knew 17-year-old girls who were kind of waiting for their 18th birthday so they could join OnlyFans. What would you say then to a young adult who is considering starting their own OnlyFans account and becoming a creator?
This is always the thing that I say, and I really encourage, if you're about to join OnlyFans or you're thinking about it and you think that it's wise, you've gotten this far now, you've heard all of these different opinions, so now you can make your own well-informed decision. But what I would encourage you to do on a very practical level is get a timer out on your phone, set it for 5 minutes, put your phone on Do Not Disturb, and I want you to sit there, and I call it like the why method. And I want you to be brutally and recklessly honest with yourself and sit there and go, why am I doing this? Why am I wanting to get on OnlyFans? Well, it's because I want to make money. Well, why? Is it because I think this is all I can do? Well, why? Well, it's because I don't think I have any value. I don't have any. And there's such a power in when you can get to the root cause of why you do something, because then it loses its power. So the root cause of why you might be wanting to go on OnlyFans is you don't believe that you can be successful in life unless you sell yourself. You don't believe that you're beautiful, so you think that this is going to validate you. You don't believe that you're liked, so you think this is going to make you have friends. Whatever the lie is you're believing. So if you can sit there for 5 minutes and get to the root of that, it's going to free you from it. I know that. And so then you're able to then make a better decision on, oh, okay, wait a minute. So I'm doing this just because I'm really insecure. Well, is this actually going to make me feel better? And so it's going to lose its power. And so I think that that's the most important thing that I encourage young girls. Just take 5 minutes, put the timer on, ask yourself why. And I really believe you're going to get to the root cause. And then you're going to be able to make a better decision on if you think this is the right thing that you should do.
And if there's a young person and they're on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and they're just creating content and they get a message from someone who's like, I'm an agent, love your stuff, let's talk. What advice would you give them? You were that agent. That's what you were doing. So how would you help that young person protect themselves and have those conversations in a helpful way?
Yeah, I think the simplest thing is, unfortunately, until we kind of have a little bit of laws around this, where like you could go to a police and be like, hey, I'm getting groomed online, and they take it serious, delete and block the account. Simple as that. If you're feeling tempted, like, oh my gosh, like this kind of made me feel validated, this made me feel good in some sort of way. If you have a safe person in your life, you need to just talk about it. You need to say to someone, hey, I got this message. And it actually, like, even if it's a friend, just get it out of you, because otherwise it's going to kind of brew a little bit and it's going, oh, should I? And so talk to a friend. Oh my gosh, this is wild. I had an agency, they messaged me, I deleted, I blocked them. I just want to tell someone about it because like it actually made me feel validated, or whatever it was. But I think it's as simple as that. Delete and block them. Do not entertain it, because these people are so sophisticated in manipulation that they will make you feel like this is what you should do. So simply delete and block.
Amazing. Good advice. Would there be a situation where that agency would pretend at the beginning not to be an OnlyFans agency? Is there ways in which people need to just even not necessarily trust what they're first being told, or are they normally quite upfront at the beginning?
Well, it's really unique that in that kind of Andrew Tate phenomenon of like these lone wolves that are going out, the strategy that they teach is manipulating women. And so I think that what's really important for young girls to know and understand is it's like the lover boy method, right? And so this isn't to make girls feel paranoid or anything. It's just using wisdom. And when a guy messages you, because girls can be inundated with messages from guys, you're so beautiful, you're this, you're that, blah, 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 blah. Start to work on what's your internal vetting system for a man. And so this comes down to your values. This is a bigger conversation in itself, and we can't give it justice in this answer. But please, like young girls, what you really need to be doing, and I really encourage, is you need to understand what your framework is of how do I vet people that I'm bringing into my life. And that starts with boundaries, your identity, and your value. And so you really need to work on those things. So then when you get that message from that cute guy and he's saying how amazing you are and how gorgeous you are and all these things, you're able to be like, okay, what are the values that I want in someone that I'm letting into my life? And you're able to vet that person, and you'll see red flags very quickly, because these people are overly nice, overly complimentary. They want to take you out. They're going to show you this fantastic life and all these different things. Maybe they'll help you out financially. They'll get you out of that bad spot. They're going to position themselves in a way that they're over you and you feel like you're in debt to them to some capacity. And so then it's, oh, I gave you that money. Well, you can't pay me back. Maybe just go like take a picture film, or maybe do this. So I think that it's really important to know that, be able to identify that, and have a framework that you already have in place of how you can vet people as a protective measure. And if they're a good person, if they're a safe person, then they'll be your friend or something else. But if they're not, you have something in place to be able to protect and help you.
Yeah, great. And as you said, to talk to other people, right?
So
Get it
important.
Out. That's like, and not, yes, your friends, but also just maybe
Safe
other people,
yeah.
other people who just maybe don't actually. You might be like, I don't want to tell that person because they don't get me in my world, but actually maybe because they don't get you in your world, in the social media stuff, maybe actually they will bring a level of perspective that will be different to, so a parent, dare I say, or somebody who you're like, oh, they don't really understand TikTok, but that might help actually in some of these situations, so they don't understand it all. They can look at it with fresh eyes. I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, definitely.
Victoria, thank you so much. Really appreciate you just helping us understand this, because it's huge. It's huge for parents who are asking lots of questions. It's huge for people who are maybe considering this world that is kind of being presented to them either as a content creator or as a subscriber. And I think you have just brought perspective and wisdom and insight. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was fantastic. Thank you.